Today we're gonna flip through my very first sketchbook. A while ago, I asked you guys what kind of videos you would like to see, and one of the top voted ones was sketchbook tours of old sketchbooks. I do have older videos where I think I called it a peek in the past, and I did go through older sketchbooks, but I just got all of my sketchbooks back from my parents, and I thought it'd be fun to start from the very beginning. This is my very first sketchbook. I believe it was around 2002, 2004, so over 20 years ago. And I only know this because there are some clues inside of here, which I'll get into when we flip through. After we look through the entire sketchbook, I also want to redraw one of the drawings, which I thought would be a fun challenge, and also a fun way to see how much I improved over the years, and in this case, over the past 20 years. So let's go ahead and begin. On the very first page, we have princesses, specifically Disney princesses, and I spelled Pocahontas' name wrong, that's for sure. Since I'm estimating that this is around 2002 to 2004, I was around 8 to 10 years old. Obviously, my love for Disney princesses has not faded, and evidence shows that I liked them before. We have some horses, cats, dogs, dolphins, donkey? Maybe. Another horse, a witch, maybe it was around Halloween, maybe a zebra, horses. I mentioned in a previous video that I drew a lot of horses when I was younger, and this is showing evidence of that. Here's another horse. This is Kaylee, is my guess, which is why I'm thinking that this is around 2002 to 2004, because she was a baby around then. Here's a Pegasus. Pretty angel princess is what I called it. Mermaid? Fruit bowl? I don't know. She's a little scary. There's Megan. There's 4-year-old Megan and 6-year-old Megan, which apparently is 2 years later. She has a really bald hairline. A little dress-up doll. I think I got into dress-up dolls later on in this sketchbook. Kangaroo. This is actually based off of a kangaroo plushie that I own. Some flowers. I'm pretty sure this was based off my friend Jasmine, but I left out the S. I'm pretty sure it's Jasmine. Some clothes. The Swan Princess, Odette. There's Disney Princess Jasmine. There's Ariel, before as a mermaid and after as a human. I'm pretty sure this bird I copied from a coloring book, along with this mouse and this bear. I think there was a phase. This looks like a water fountain. I don't know where that came from. Some more clothes. I was also really into Barbies, so maybe I was drawing clothes for them. Cupid. This was all three of us, so I'm guessing this is me, Megan, and Kaylee. And then a cat that we never owned. I think that's a bush. A house. I don't know if that's my mom. It might be my mom. And a car. It looks like a pickup, and we did not have a pickup. But nonetheless, I tried to put in more scenery back then than I do now. I think this is supposed to be Belle from Beauty and the Beast. A random girl with really short arms. Some poodles. This poodle has clothes. I think I copied this from a coloring page as well. I was also really into ballerinas. You probably will see that theme throughout this sketchbook. Ballerinas, horses, and princesses. And there's a dog. I think that's from a coloring book too, but I don't know for sure. More dog. Oh, actually, no, that's a rabbit. That's a dog. This one, I'm actually gonna guess is like Taffy from Barbie, her golden retriever dog. That's what it reminds me of, at least. And this rabbit, I'm pretty sure someone taught me how to draw this. And later on you'll see more animals that look like this. Random butterfly and house. This is a fancy horse with, I'm guessing, me holding an apple to the horse. When I was younger, I wished for a pony like every other little girl. More clothes. Here are the animals I was talking about, where I think someone taught me to draw like 2 circles, put the nose in between, and then The eyes are like half circles. And I did a bunny. I'm guessing this is a dog, like a King Charles Spaniel. I was really interested in those kind of dogs back then. And a cat. There is a mer horse. And I like how the little drips here, I have to say apple crumbs, just in case you didn't know. And I remember I used to like drawing beds for mermaids. As you can see here, these are mer horses sleeping in beds, and their dolls are humans. Sister Fox, I don't know where this is from, but she's putting on makeup. Maybe I got inspired by a children's book. I don't know. Here's another horse, and I think that's Sister Fox again, but she is handing a tissue to a crying cat. I don't know why the cat's crying. There's a unicorn Pegasus riding a turtle. I don't know. I don't think it's a turtle, but I don't know what that is. It looks like a mix between a turtle and a platypus. Here's a drawing of, I guess, the first day of school. And I don't know if this is supposed to be first place or just first day and second for the dog wearing clothes. When I first read this, I thought it said fancers. Still looks like fancers, but now that I'm looking at this, it's supposed to be day. I think that's supposed to say fancy, but spelled wrong. And my guess is I was learning cursive, which was 3rd grade. Here's a princess that also has first and second place, but a cat this time. I don't know what that's about. Here's a mermaid swimming. A pirate ship. I think this is supposed to be a pirate with treasure. My mom drew that. It's an angel with angel dog and angel cat. And I think these are clouds. I don't know what this is, but it looks like she is standing in the middle of a room and there's a sofa couch. That looks like one of those velvet ropes. She's a little creepy though. This one, I, for some reason, distinctly remember. That's curtain hair. It's not supposed to be hair. It's supposed to be, her hair is made of curtains. I don't know why I remember that. I guess that's supposed to be me. There's my name. It's definitely not what I look like. I do remember one of my classmates showing me how to draw like that, because she drew similar to this, where she would give everyone like flared jeans, and she would make them a lot taller, but I think that's where that came from. Here's a ballerina with a guy and a swan, maybe a ballerina swan. I don't know. Oh, there's a guy back, there's a little boy swan over there too. I changed how I drew eyes though, they're a little scary. And then this one says poor maid and rich princess. So I'm guessing this was like Cinderella, but mermaid form. There's a chunky horse that's bald. This one my dad drew, with the exception of these two and that. My dad is also very artistic, so he drew me a castle, a unicorn, Ariel, and I colored it with color pencils. But of course I had to add skateboarding Megan, me next to Ariel, showing Ariel my Ariel doll, and that's baby Kaylee with a dog in the castle. We didn't have a dog, but I wanted a dog. Mermaid land. There's 2 mermaids and a dolphin spraying the words yeah. There's another horse, some dress up clothes. Here's those animal faces again. Cheerleading dog for the team stars. Number 19, I guess. Where there's a football. And then maybe prom queen cat. I don't know. That's scary. It's gonna haunt me in my dreams. And there's a schoolgirl dog. There's a dolphin. Another one of those first days of school, first day of school, last day of school. And I'm guessing it's a change in clothes and haircut and everything. And more little dress up dolls, which that's me, Kaylee, and Megan, according to our first initials. Robot vacation. I remember this is where I got into very boxy drawings. So I made robot animals. Little robot horse, cat, I think it's a cat, dog, even robot fish and another cat. And then I got into origami pets. So I made a dog, cat, reindeer, hamster, horse, and bird into what I believed would be origami. Some random flowers and masks. There's my name. I think that's supposed to be me. I don't know. And I assume those are like two braid pigtails. I'm pretty sure that's me riding a horse to the finish line. Like I mentioned before, I really liked horses. There's even a trophy over there with 3 judges. The robot unicorn. Apparently I labeled what everything is. The small ones are decorations. The medium ones are grab-its, is what I called it. And the giant ones are missiles and rockets. And there's a little seat. There's the robot dog version, which I guess does not have decorations, grab-its, or missiles and rockets. But it does have 2 drivers. This one looks like Barbie room, because everything is Barbie. Someone's walking in saying hi. Someone's laying down. I think this is us 3 again. But this room has Barbie pillows, Barbie blankets, Barbie lamp, dresser. Even the pot has a bee on it. The bed has a bee on it. That rug has a Barbie on it. Maybe I really wanted a Barbie room. This one, for some reason, reminds me of Viva Pinata, but I don't think it came out yet. So I think I was just drawing patterns on animals. And I think these are deer. I'm not sure. And I think that's a fox. So I think it's a mama deer, baby deer, fox, butterfly, and a plant. And that's it. So I think I'm going to try and redraw the characters on this. I don't really want to attempt to figure out this whole house, bush, car situation. But I think the characters and designs are interesting enough to translate into my current style and see how much I have grown from 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. When I started to redraw this drawing, I did take some creative liberties with changes. I actually redrew this piece a couple of times. There was a thumbnail sketch, and then I transferred it onto my iPad to try and get the proportions right, because typically I have a hard time making the proportions correct in correlation to other characters, especially if I draw more than one on one page. And this pose was a standing pose, and I had it done for a while, but then I looked back on it later and I felt like it was too static and just so like boring that I wanted to change it. At this time, I also watched K-pop Demon Hunters, so at the end, they're floating there, and there's 3 of them, so I took a little bit of inspiration and changed the poses. Making the characters float gave me a little bit more flexibility on what I could do with their legs, since when they're standing, they have a load-bearing leg, and that definitely limits the pose that I could do, and that's when I decided to change the pose. Surprisingly, I drew it on a piece of paper and I did not transfer it onto my iPad to change any of the proportions. I will say that looking at it, there are a few things that I would change proportionally, like the character on the far right. I think her head is slightly too big compared to the other 2, but it's not crazy big in proportion to the other 2 that I felt the need to go into it digitally and change it. Plus, I personally have a big head compared to my sisters, so who's to say this is not normal? I also tried to make their faces a little bit different with their features and face shape. Obviously, in the older drawing, I drew the same kind of face. They had little dot eyes and 3 eyelashes, and their noses were all facing the same way. So, obviously, since I've improved since then, I wanted to change it up. When it came to the hair and the clothes, I definitely found it more challenging to try and recreate it. For the hair, I noticed that I did a lot of ponytails, and since the character on the right had the two pigtails and the character on the left had a side ponytail. The character in the middle looked like she had two ponytails as well, and I didn't want it to look the same as the other two. At one point, I was sketching the new version without the old version present, so I thought that the middle character had braids in her ponytail or some indication of braids in the ponytail, but when I looked back, there wasn't any. But since this is a redrawing, I decided to just keep it anyways to try and change up the pigtails. Now, when it came to the clothes, that was probably the hardest because the clothes that I originally drew were obviously very simple and had simple shapes. And it's not that I couldn't redraw them that way, but I felt like I wanted to add more personality and character to these new versions, and these older sketches of clothes were not cutting it. I did try to keep an overall concept the same, so either their silhouette or the idea of having layers and stuff like that the same. But in order to change it up and add a little bit more detail, I ended up finding inspiration by looking up the phrase cool dresses. That gave me some more inspiration and reference I could use to create these newer versions of the clothes. I personally am not very good at fashion off the top of my head from my imagination, so I always need references because in my real life, I just stick to very simple outfits. I'm pretty happy with how the final sketch turned out, especially compared to the original drawing. I think it's been over 20 years and you can see the difference. Obviously, some people improve a lot more in 20 years or a lot more in a few years, but this is just showing my progress and I'm pretty happy with where my art is today. I'm sure my art could improve more if I dedicated more time to it, but on this channel, we focus on progress, not perfection, and if I'm seeing progress, then I'm pretty happy. One of the last things that I really struggled with was the color scheme. Now, color is normally very hard for me. I usually default to color schemes that work well together, but because there are 3 separate characters on the same drawing, it was more challenging for me to find a color scheme that worked with all 3. I had originally wanted to do a darker color scheme where they're more vampy. However, I thought that it wouldn't be very fun to watch me color mostly grays and blacks. So I ended up switching to a more pastel color scheme. I did so many test color schemes before landing on this one. I'll show you all the ones that I tried out on my iPad here. And even when I established a color scheme that I was going to go for, the final drawing didn't even end up looking like that. Mainly because the digital version, I didn't do much shading, and there's obviously differences in digital and markers. And then the markers that I chose, some of them were a lot darker than I had swatched, so that kind of surprised me. But it did end up working in general, having the base color scheme already set and then figuring it out as I added the markers in. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I know from the original drawing that these characters were loosely based on me and my sisters, with me being in the middle, Megan on the right, and Kaylee on the left. I tried to emulate it a little bit in this newer version of how I kind of draw each of us together, but then obviously the colors are just whatever I thought looked good together. I did try to avoid Powerpuff Girl colors just because I didn't want it to look like Powerpuff Girls. But I do plan on having this drawing available as a coloring page on my Etsy, which I will link in the description. And if you want to, you can color them like the Powerpuff Girls. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking through my old sketchbook together and seeing how much of a difference 20 plus years can make if you keep drawing, even if you don't draw a lot like I do. You're definitely not alone if you have not drawn a lot this year. I obviously made a resolution to draw more, and I stopped after January. I think it's important that if you still enjoy drawing, to keep drawing, but to not force yourself to feel like you have to be doing what everyone else is doing in order to improve. If you see progress, then I think that's great. So I hope this video inspired or motivated you, and maybe you can look back at older sketchbooks and redraw something from there to see how far you've come along, or just to have a fun challenge. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Keep creating cottontails. I will see you in the next video.